Good morning and welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. It's Sally here. You'll have to excuse me because I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm a little bit croaky, but I've got my glass of water in case I start coughing, so hopefully it will all go okay. Today I thought I would do a little tutorial on Suffolk Puffs. Now, Suffolk Puffs are these little things here. I've got a little stash here of some vintage Suffolk Puffs. This one here was gifted to me by my lovely friend Kristie in Australia. So bits Kristie. And I've had other ones that I've bought myself. So just little vintage Suffolk Puffs. These are lovely. And these are from America, I think these ones are. Where you get the best ones, I think, are in America. And they can be so pretty. That one there, look at that. I like to turn them over because sometimes the front of them are faded, but you get a lovely colour on the back of them. So that's what I actually made. So these are Suffolk Puffs, and we use these in slow stitching to decorate our pieces. And I thought I would show you how to make them. Now there's several ways to make them, and one of them is with a proper Suffolk Puff maker. I haven't got one of those and I don't use those, but my lovely friend Christine does, and I'm going to try and find a video of Christine's Create and Craft with Christine that she shows you how to make them. So I'm going to try and dig that out and pop that link underneath this video. So if you have got a maker or you're thinking of buying a maker, get them in all different sizes, and you can have a look at Christine's video on how to make those. But I'm going to make mine just by drawing the circle. And there's two methods I use depending on what I'm feeling like and how thick my fabrics are. Now, in general, for a Suffolk Puff, I like to use quite thin fabrics because I just think that they look nicer and they emulate the vintage ones that I particularly like. And I also like to iron mine press them, just so that they look a little bit flatter. But the choice is yours. It's whatever preference you have. You can go for a thicker one that makes it a little bit thicker fabric that makes the Suffolk Puff a little bit thicker and stand out more. It's really a personal choice. So anyway, the first thing is you need a circle. They all start as a circle. Now I've got one of these which I find really helpful. This is a Fisker's one, and it's just a circle template. But if you haven't got one of these, it doesn't matter. You can use anything circular. So a little pot, a little saucer, even a cup, or whatever you've got at hand, really. Just have a look around. You get loads of circles, aren't there, around the house. So it's just really up to you as to what size you want. Now, in general, I'm just going to try and find my ruler. It's in here. In general, if you're thinking you want let's do inches, 2-inch Suffolk Puff, you need to cut your circle 4 inches diameter, and diameter is across. It's not round or anything like that. It's across your circle. So this little saucer here is about 4.5 inches. So my Suffolk Puff will end up just over 2 inches. This pot here, that's about 3 inches. So my Suffolk Puff will actually end up about 1.5 inches. So it just depends on how big you want your Suffolk Puff. I don't usually go too small. That one will make a ½ inch. That will make about a ½ inch Suffolk Puff. That one will be about 3/4. So it's really up to you, but try and, just experiment. And even if you're making Suffolk Puffs, you're not using them straight away, you can pop them like me in a little box and they're there for when you do want them. So the next thing to do, you'll need thread. I'm just using a plain old white thread here, and I like to double my thread up. So mine, where's my little reel? I've got this one I'm using at the moment. It's just a white sewing thread. And I've cut a length already, and I'm just going to double it up. So what I do is I thread my needle, and then I knot the two ends together, and that's making 2 strands. It just makes it a little bit stronger because there is a little bit of pulling in this, not too much. You don't need to yank the thread through, but there is a little bit of pulling when you're actually gathering your Suffolk Puff together. So let's start. First of all, I'm going to start with a lovely cotton fabric here. So I've just got pretty little fabrics. You can use whatever you've got around. And actually, traditionally, these Suffolk Puffs in general, the history of them, they started in about 1600. I think that's where the earliest ones date back to. Started in the county of Suffolk in England, and you used old fabrics, perhaps it was an old shirt, old dress, anything, and they would sew these together. And then what would happen is, it was usually kind of like a farming community that did it, and they would actually use sheep's wool that they found around the farm and stuff the Suffolk Puffs to make a quilt so that they would be lovely and warm. And that's where it originated from. They are also called yo-yos in America. So I'm just cutting my circle here that I've drawn. And this circle is approximately, can you see how I've not really cut around the edges too much? You don't really need to be that precise. I will just do this a little bit because there's a bit of a square here. Okay, you don't have to be mega precise. So this is 4 inches, so it will make around about a 2-inch Suffolk puff. Now there are 2 ways to do a Suffolk puff. One is just to go all the way around the edge with a running stitch, or if you wanted a neater edge in the middle, you turn it over. So for this one, I'm going to turn this one over. So you turn it over just a tiny little bit, and then you're going to be doing your running stitch. And as you go, you're going to be weaving in and out and turning over as you go. So it's almost like you're hemming the fabric. And as you go along, just keep turning and turning. I've got a few stitches gathered up on my needle there, so I'm just going to pull them through like that. Don't need to do much at the moment, you know, with gathering. We'll do that at a later date when we've gone all the way around. So keep going. Just a tiny little hem, really. Oops, I'm caught up with my knit ruler. So I hope you're all well today. You're all finding time to stitch. Bit of a dreary day here in England at the moment. It's not, I'm just having a look in the bird bath. It's not raining at the moment, but it has been, and it's very damp outside and dull. So what better way to spend the time in front of the fire? Not that the fire's here, it's in the other room, but I'll be sitting there later on around the fire doing some stitching. So as I say, this is a cotton, but I have got a couple of other more. This one here is a handkerchief. It's quite silky. I don't know whether it is actually pure silk or not. It kind of feels like it, so it could be. I'm going to do one in that because I do like, I have, you can see here, there's one already been cut out of this, so I have actually used this before for a Suffolk puff, and I do like, once they're ironed, they do look very vintage. Let's take those stitches through. I think this is an old vintage bed sheet. This fabric. It's very pretty. I bought this online from, where was it from? It's a seller on Etsy, I think. Right, I'm just going to pull my thread a little bit, just because I've got the knot. Right, I'll tell you what, let's go through there, like that. So I'm just pulling that, so it's at its end. Right, okay, so we've got to about where we started from. Now what I like to do is just go 1 stitch over from where we started. So that's where I started, that knot, you see. And I've just gone 1 stitch over. Okay, and then we can start pulling. Just do it gently, just shape your Suffolk puff. that. Just flattening it out. Okay, a little bit more. Now with this method, I find that the hole is quite large, and I don't always want a large hole, so that's why I don't always use this method. I use the second method that I'm going to show you in a moment. So I'm just putting my thumb on it just to make sure it doesn't come undone. Okay, now you can get yours perfectly straight if you wanted to. You see how that's kind of like off-centered, but I like the off-centered ones, I don't mind. But if you wanted to do them actually in the center, you just move your fabric around until it was actually laying in the center there. That's more central like that. But I quite like mine higgledy-piggledy, so I really don't fuss too much with mine. Okay, so we've got it tight. That's as tight as it's going to go. I don't want to yank it too much, or else the thread will snap. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through to the back, and because you don't really see the back when you're doing slow stitch, because you're going to be putting it on that way, it doesn't really matter what your stitching looks like. But I'm just going to do a few stitches just to secure. So all I'm doing is like up and down. Through the stitches, and that will secure it in place so it doesn't come undone. I'll just do one more. Okay, because this is white, if you choose a fabric, a thread that complements, or like if this one, you can hardly see the white thread on this, so it doesn't matter too much. So I'm just going to do a little knot, and I'm just going to do one more just to keep it secure. And that's just all I'm doing, is making a loop. Like that, and then I'm going to put my thread through the loop, my needle through the loop, and my thread through the loop, and it just loops up to make a little knot, like that. I'll snip that off. And there's my first Suffolk puff. So isn't that pretty? Love that. So again, I'm just going to use the same thread because I've got lots of it left. Just do another knot. And then that's ready to go. So let's do one with a thinner fabric. So this one here, like I say, it's kind of like a silk. And should we choose a different size? Let's choose a little smaller one. So I'm going to use this one here. In fact, what am I going to do that? Yes, I am. Right, the pen, oh, steady. The pen that I'm using, I was just thinking, shall I use this pen? But it doesn't matter because I'm going to press this with an iron. So this will come off. This is a heat erasable pen. I use these all the time. It's called a friction pen, Frixion, friction pen. So I've got my circle. Okay, I'm just going to roughly cut round. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly a circle. I've gone over the lines, but it doesn't matter. There we go. Put that to one side. Got my thread. So this time, rather than to fold it over, because this is quite delicate, all I'm going to do is literally go to the edge and start doing my running stitch. Okay, just make sure you're not going too near the edge, that your needle's not going to catch your fabric. But just build those stitches up on your needle. And when you feel as though you've got enough, you can just go through. Whoop. Fabric fabric slipping through my fingers. It's quite a slippery fabric, so it's not the easiest to work with, but the end result is worth it. So because you're going right to the edge and I'm not folding over like I gave the other one a little hem. Where's my other one gone? So this one here, it's quite neat round here, and you've got no raw edges on your fabric. This one, you'll see the raw edges on my fabric. And that just depends whether you like that effect or not. If you're new to Suffolk Puffs, it's probably best to try both and see how you feel about it. You'll come to favour certain ones for certain projects, I think. Depending on whether you're doing a very neat project with no raw edges, you'd probably want to go for this one. If you're going for a more natural look with raw edges, and I suppose it's a more traditional way of slow stitching, you might go for this one. So again, I'm just going to go through there. Just pull it a little bit, just get that knot at the end of where I need it. Okay, and then I'm just going to, it's getting quite fiddly, but there's my knot, and I'm just going to go one stitch over. Just go over a little bit, that's all you need to do. And then start pulling, okay? And as you can see with this one, I mean, because this is thin as well, you've got no space here. You see how this one's got a little bit of a gap. This one pulls right up to, it all goes in quite well. Okay, and again, just going to go through a couple of stitches on this one, just to catch all the fabric. Oops. I'm not being too fussy about it being exactly central. The middle, it's kind of like a little bit off centre. And as you can see the blue of the friction pen, but once I press it, that will go away. In fact, I'm just going to pop my iron on now to warm up a little bit so I can show you. Okay, so again, just a little knot and one more. I'm just going to do two on this one. There, so got my little iron here. Not to go too hot on this one, just in case it is a synthetic and not a lace, not lace, silk. So there you can see, it kind of looks time worn, I think, already, because it's so misshapen as well. I just think it kind of looks vintage anyway. So on a piece of slow stitch, I'm just going to try and find a piece of slow stitch that I can show you. So here's one that I did not. Here's one I did earlier. So as you can see, I mean that is a vintage one here, but I think it kind of competes with that one, doesn't it? It compares to that one. So I think if you had it on your slow stitch, I think it would look good. So yeah, and then let's do this one here. I'm going to just turn the iron up a little bit, just because this one is a cotton. And again, you don't have to press them, but I just like that effect because they kind of, as I say, they look a bit more vintage. There you go. Let me get an actual vintage one out. There you go. It's kind of, because these have been washed and ironed so many times, that's why they're so flat. But then this one, obviously, because it's not new fabric, it is vintage fabric, but it has been washed and pressed. But yeah, so that's kind of like, I think they're comparable to, see that one there, that's one of mine, I made that one, but then that's a vintage one. So that's kind of like the effect that I like. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the way that I make my vintage inspired Suffolk Puffs, which are these two here. Oh, and that one as well. But yeah, so anyway, I hope that's been useful for you. If you have any questions, pop them underneath and I can always answer them. And obviously, thank you so much for subscribing. If you aren't a subscriber, please think about subscribing. It is free, and all your likes and your comments, love them to see, you know, and I love to see what you're doing. So don't forget to join the Facebook group if you're not already a member. That's free as well, and you can post your pics of what you're doing. It'd be lovely if you could make some Suffolk Puffs, put them into the group so that we can all share, you know, ideas of how to use them as well would be good. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon. In the meantime, take care. Bye bye.